when the word worst case comes to mind, it's always something like a dural tear, recurrence, something happened and we repaired it. But I don't think we are at that stage in that advanced stage of UBE to, actually take something home out of it. So I have chosen a case which is slightly difficult as far as the planning and the interoperative execution of the case goes. So we can all have some good discussion and understanding about the nuances of UBE. This is a 75-year-old male with bilateral buttock pains and leg pain. Right side was affected more. Fortunately, the patient didn't had any low back pain. There's claudication distance of approximately 5 minutes, though no bowel bladder or distal neurovascular complications. The patient didn't had any the patient had a lot of comorbidities in the form of hypertension, hypothyroidism, IHD. Also had undergone CABG, bilateral carotid stenting, and an attack of CVA in 2020. These are the X-ray and the MRI pictures of the patient. So as you can make out, there's a listhesis at the last mobile segment causing bilateral foraminal stenosis. And these are the axial cuts of the patient, wherein you can see from L3-4, there's a extruded disc causing lateral recess narrowing on the right side. L4-5 also has a right-sided small disc fragment with moderate lateral recess stenosis. And of course, L5-S1 has those full facets with facetal arthropathy and bilateral foraminal stenosis, which is evident in the axial cuts there. So the treatment options were only to do decompression, which wouldn't have been a good option if considering the height of the foramen at the last mobile segment. The second option was stabilization at all the levels, but a multi-level fusion surgery considering the age and the comorbidities wouldn't have been the best option. Unfortunately, I don't have the technical expertise to do K-lift, which would have been a faster surgery, and jacking up of the disc space would have been possible at multiple levels, but I don't have the expertise to do so. Isolated fusion of L5-S1 level wouldn't have tackled the upper lumbar level, so we decided to do an L3 to L5 decompression, left-sided approach, contralateral sublaminar approach going to the right side so that we can preserve the facet, and a fusion at the L5-S1 level in the form of UBE lift. The preoperative challenges were a long segment case with a single level fusion at the lower lumbar level, 3-4 right-sided foraminal disc, 4-5 stenosis, 5-S1 listhesis, instability with vacuum sign, disc height reduced and causing bilateral foraminal stenosis. So we started with the cranial level first. This was the first level, L3-4. We started by doing a left-sided approach and going sublaminar to the contralateral side, doing contralateral flavectomy and then isolating the disc. So we first isolated the video is not playing there. Video नहीं play हो रहा है. मेरा लैपटॉप दे दो ना, उसमें सेव कर लेता हूँ. So when we plan this kind of an approach, we try to minimize the laminar cutting on the ipsilateral side. We try to expose the spinolaminar junction, the base of the spinous process. We undercut the base of the spinous process, isolate the lamina on the opposite side, and we go to the contralateral side, detach the ligamentum flavum, go to the facet, isolate, identify the facet on the opposite side, and then undercut the facet, do the flavectomy, isolate the lateral border of the traversing nerve root and the shoulder of the traversing nerve root on the contralateral side, retract it towards our side. So this way, we can prevent, we can undercut the facet and prevent instability so that fusion at the upper lumbar levels can be prevented. इधर ये HDMI port है उसका, नहीं उसमें मत लगा, there's an HDMI port directly उसमें लगा. We start by isolating the base of the spinous process, which is right there. We undercut the lamina slightly on our side and more often do a dome kind of an osteotomy or the base of the spinous process undercutting. Then in this video you can see that this is the lamina on the opposite side, that's the facet. This is inferior articular process. The part to which the ligamentum flavum is actually attached, it turns white, is there. This is superior articular process and this is the facet joint. So you go sublaminar to the contralateral side. Then using the sleeve of the scope, you retract the nerve root and the thecal sac towards our side, isolate the disc which is there on the opposite side. In this case, it was a hard calcified disc fragment. I had to use multiple curettes and osteotomes to break it open and remove the disc on the opposite side. It was a hard disc. And towards the end of the procedure, you can see that's the traversing nerve root with the axilla and the shoulder, which is completely decompressed. So sublaminar approach to the contralateral side for L3-4. We repeated the same steps for L4-5 and did the similar steps at lower levels as well. Then we came down to the L5-S1 disc level, which was the stenotic one. We put the screws on the right side first and we distracted to jack up the disc space. We made sure that the screws are parallel to each other, and after distraction, we isolated the ipsilateral facet, L5-S1 facet. You can see the traversing nerve root, ipsilateral lateral border. This is the disc space, and there was a large osteophyte there, which is sitting, coming from S1, sitting over the disc space. After osteotomizing that bone, we can actually expose, and as expected, it was an empty disc, but there was a lot of cartilage inside. So this is the best part of the surgery. Under clear endoscopic visualization, these are the end plates. You can do everything. The scope is just sitting there, and under clear endoscopic visualization, you can curate out whatever cartilage is remaining, put a lot of bone grafts anteriorly, and put the cage directly under visualization. So the vision is the best part of the surgery. Then we started sequentially dilating the case, the disc level. This is an 8 mm dilator, this is a 9 mm. The importance of putting parallel screws here is when it starts dilating, you can see that the screws are becoming divergent. So at 9 mm, we started seeing that the disc is opening up. So we released the distraction on the contralateral side, and then we started using a banana shape dilators. So this is 10 mm, this is 11 mm. Significant amount of reduction was achieved, and jacking up of the disc space was done. Then we put a banana shaped cage, and to make sure that it doesn't back out, you rotate the cage. So these two markers, which is one is in the anterior, one is in the posterior side, you bring them to a single line. You completely rotate the cage so that it's exactly horizontally placed by using the instruments to just rotate it at the same position. And this is the kind of reduction and jacking up of the disc space that you can achieve. This is the final result. This is the actual picture just at the time of drain removal, 24 hours after the procedure. So we started with L3-4 level, so that's the scopic portal for L3, L4 level. Then we moved down, L4, L5 was done through the same incision, and because of the difference in the angulation of L4-5 and L5-S1, the same portals for L4-5 were used for L5-S1 facetectomy, and after facetectomy and cage insertion, we increased the length of the incisions for inserting the percutaneous pedicular screws. So 5 incisions for all the complete procedure, no extra bone graft or anything needed. Advantages, of course, it's a minimally invasive with good visualization, autologous bone graft, no substitutes are needed, so economical, no risk of exiting nerve injury because it didn't expose the exiting nerve root, only did medial facetectomy, SAP on the ipsilateral side was intact, so there's no question of exposing the exiting nerve root, no neuromonitoring needed, early mobilization, and of course K-lift could have been a better option, so I'll try to learn it and do it next time. Thank you.